Let's do a show, everybody. And today's show is going to be fun. Welcome to Inside Coverage here on Yahoo. The how and the why and the any and the everything that you need to know about the National Football League. Week 7 is done. We had the Monday night doubleheader. Both of those games could be short films, the way things played out. And Baker Mayfield got mad at John Hussey, and Mike Evans broke his collarbone. And then the Seahawks somehow found a way to win despite 5 turnovers, and they were the better team from start to finish. We had a referee protecting JSN on the sideline. I mean, it was a wild kind of night. All the while, you had a Game 7 of the ALCS happening at the same time. By the way, my name is Andrew Siciliano. We thank you for being here. This is not my show. We have the entire Yahoo NFL staff. We have Charles Robinson. We have Frank Schwab. And we have a fun one today, guys. On the night the NBA season begins, NFL Twitter kind of turns into NBA Twitter, if you know what I'm saying. And we have shots fired. We have people clapping back that you never thought would clap back. We have owners' meetings going on with owners saying things that make you go, wait a minute, what? Yeah, it's a fun one. See, Rob, how the heck you doing?
Good, man. We're never. We can't do this late stack with these Monday night games anymore, man. Because this,
I'm
being up at 1 in the morning watching games is ridiculous, man.
Come on,
3 grumpy old men. Hey, if I weren't jet lagged,
can't stay up once in a while. Come on,
I would have stayed up. I'm on the West Coast. I should have stayed up. I was just jet lagged. Honestly, that Browns victory, you got to celebrate when you get a victory. When you get a victory, I might have had a couple of pops Sunday night. I needed to go to bed before Kaimi Fairbairn messed up the kickoff with 2:04 remaining. So I peaced out. So I feel better now, Frank. I feel much better. How are you, sir?
Can we just try to arrange it so the better game is later, right? I mean, because that's the thing. It was the worst
that's the thing. Yeah,
that was late, right? Like, can we just flip-flop it so we get the good one late?
I never hear more complaining from anybody than when there's a late NFL game. Like, are you people tucked into bed at like 8:30 at night? Like, come on, you can stay up once in a while for a Monday night game. But I will say, oh my goodness, that game was terrible. That was just too.
Okay, thank you.
It was like, yeah, it's a kind of a close game. It was a 1-score-ish game at the end, but you're like, it's just because the Seahawks are trying to give this away. They are desperately like, please, Texans, take this game. And Texans are like, no, we're so terrible. We can't even win with 5 turnovers. So I get the game itself stunk, but can we stop with the complaining about being up late? Oh my goodness, you people.
Hey, it was Charles who complained. I don't like the idea of 2 Monday night games. I think it is a kind of a pain in the rear. I live on the West Coast. I don't care if there's a late 7 o'clock game. I'm fine with that. I can live with that. Just last night was not the night. Last night I went, you know what? I'm good. That's what the phone's for. That's what Yahoo's for. I could go there on Tuesday morning and I could find out who won. Product placement. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the news. And back in my days at NFL Network, when we're doing the afternoon news show, every now and then I was the loudest one in the newsroom. Shocking. I would sit there and just yell right before the show, "We've got a new lead." And that's kind of what I did to myself alone in my home today before we all jumped into WhatsApp. And Frank beat me to the WhatsApp by about 5 seconds. Before we tell you what Russell Wilson tweeted, let's go back to what Sean Payton said. Sean Payton, Broncos head coach, after that thrilling come-from-behind victory in which the Broncos beat, keep this in mind, Jackson Dart and the Giants. Take a listen.
I have a ton of respect for that organization. I spent 4 of my early years there coordinating Super Bowl, first game in this stadium before 9/11, close with the mayor, Tisch family. And, they found a little spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game.
Okay, so in summary, that's the coach of the Broncos flexing that he won a Super Bowl as an assistant many years ago with the team he just beat, and saying that I told the ownership of said team that I wish you had benched Russell Wilson before you played us we wish we played Russell Wilson. Okay, that's the subtweet right there. That's the little passive aggressive wink wink nudge nudge. That's what he's saying. Well, today, in a move that has stunned the NFL world, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not. In a move that has stunned the NFL world, Russell Wilson took to social media, took to X to write this. Classless, but not surprised. Didn't realize you're still bounty hunting 15 years later through the media. Hashtag let's ride. Let's ride, meaning what he used to say at the end of every Broncos press conference, kind of corny, honestly. Let's ride, Broncos country. Broncos country, let's ride. And then bounty hunting. He's basically saying, hey, Sean Payton, you're still the same guy that ran a bounty program in New Orleans years ago. You're still the same guy that got suspended for a year. You're classless. You're classless. And then throws in let's ride to make sure people realize, just to be clear, who he truly is talking about. I am stunned. Russell Wilson broke character. Russell Wilson is human. He is the paragon of positivity. He is the captain of turning the other cheek. You will never see him break. You will never see him bleed. To be quite honest, you will never hear him be honest. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. He will never, ever admit that you have gotten under his skin. He can't. He won't. He's like a robot, honestly, who is programmed to never show you a bad side. If you guys ever watched Westworld on HBO back in the day, this is the moment when you realize like Jeffrey Wright is really one of them, or when you realize they get glitchy and all of a sudden you see the bad side. We finally saw the glitch, C-Rob, and good for Russell Wilson.
This is, I've always referred to Russ as the vending machine interview because he's so programmed. Like you ask a question, press A4, you know what you're getting. If you ask a question, you press C6, you know what you're getting. Like he is absolutely that robotic guy. And then I guess this is like truly dangerous, right? He's spicy. Finally, he has something to say.
It's Mr. Unlimited shots at people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, this is Sean Payton. Like, I don't know, like, how long the shift. It's like a couple of years now I've been marveling at Sean Payton just saying whatever he wants. Like, he's like, I'm just going to say it. And you and I, Andrew, we've spent time with him this preseason and this training camp. I mean, I had him for like 90 minutes in the cafeteria, and it was one of the most expansive. He is literally just saying everything interviews that I've done in a really long time, on the record, off the record. And I think, though, people don't understand, there was definitely some saltiness inside the Broncos organization with how it ended with Russ. You know, they bench him. Clearly, there were leaks coming out of Russ's camp about it. Clearly, he was not happy with it, and he was going to go kicking and screaming, which I think Sean Payton and other individuals in that Broncos organization took umbrage with because they had paid him over $120 million once he's out the door to effectively fail, right? He just did not live up to anything they thought he was going to live up to. He was, Sean, I think, felt he's a bad culture fit. So I think this is something that's been stored up with Sean for a while. Look, Russ, I don't mind Russ clapping back. Hey, you're an adult, you're a grown man, do what you got to do. But, I think both sides are shading each other for a reason. There's some hard feelings on both sides coming out of that.
Yeah, and, let's not forget the hard feelings from Russ, just because he hasn't opened up about it like Sean Payton might. I mean, Russ at one point was approached with, if you don't change your contract to get rid of this injury guarantee, we're going to bench you, which is one of the most unprofessional things I've ever heard about in the NFL. Like that's literally like at the bottom of the barrel unprofessionalism from the Broncos organization. But Russ kept his cool because that's Russ, right? Like whenever former Seahawks teammates would say stuff, or whenever other players would say stuff, or whenever the media who thought they were cool thought they could say stuff about Russell Wilson, I have never heard him say anything back to anybody. He's the kid in school who you just bully and bully and bully and bully, and he just sits there and takes it. Well, finally, it's like, Christmas Story when the guy finally just hauls off and starts punching
snaps.
the bully. Like, yeah, he snaps.
Yes.
I wish I could remember the names off the top of my head. But that's what happened to Russell Wilson finally. And Ralphie, right. And
Yeah.
everybody's just stunned. I was stunned. I looked at that tweet for a while like, is this real? Like, did somebody hack Russ? Did he really do this? And good for Russell Wilson. Like, he shouldn't be,
Frank.
disrespected like he is and hold it all in forever. This was not even that crazy, but to bring up Bountygate was really funny. Oh, I love this. Good on you, Russ.
Listen, fine. Okay. If it's Wine Spectator, it's 100 points, right? You got a 100-point response there. Great clapback. But I will ask both of you, is Sean wrong? Was he wrong? Because when I listened to what Sean said, I was like,
he's not wrong.
No, that's
and
right.
I didn't even
That's
honestly
true.
think it was.
He just said it out loud.
I didn't honestly think it was that much of a shot at Russell Wilson because
it wasn't.
Anybody is like, yeah, the Giants are better with Jackson Dart right now. Like I was saying,
everybody knows that.
But they're the preseason; they should start right.
Everybody,
something that's never been said. But Sean Payton wasn't wrong. No, he wasn't wrong.
But Sean knew what he was doing.
Andrew, let me ask you this: do you think this is Russ showing a little bit of crack in his armor when it comes to Jackson Dart? Because think about it. All we've heard,
interesting.
They go on national TV, and Jackson Dart's got his, they're in prime time. And what's the crew talking about? Man, they can't wait to get to Jackson Dart. All we hear is these great things about Jackson Dart.
And then Brian Daboll broke all sideline medical protocol just because he didn't want to have to put Russ in for one snap.
It was unbelievable. And not only that, when Daboll comes out, I mean, think of the pressers that Daboll has had since Dart has gotten in there. It's like this massive relief and therapy all of a sudden. He's just like, oh, that's my guy, that's my quarter. And if you're Russ, you're sitting there going, okay, so let's see. Seattle bailed on me. Denver bailed on me. Pittsburgh bailed on me. The Giants have now bailed on me. What the hell, man? Like, where is my I was a Hall of Famer. Like, I was on a Hall of Fame track. Maybe I am still a Hall of Famer, and I still want to play. And all I've got now is literally it's an assembly line of coaches who are just coming off the conveyor belt going, Russ ain't my guy. Russ ain't my guy. Russ ain't my guy. Like, at some point, that's got to affect you, Andrew.
Of course. That's what I said. He's human. And while this is totally out of character, part of me wants to be like, yes, dude. Yes. Like, I'm happy, like, it's breaking through. You must go home and punch the wall every now and then, right? Like, this is the Emperor in Star Wars when Luke is like, when Luke is giving it to Vader's like, yes, unleash your anger. Like, yes, like, I know you have it. It's in you. Like, come on. And like, I'm happy for Russ. And don't think for a second, by the way, look, Sean's right. You'd rather play Russ. Clearly rather play Russ than Jackson Dart. Sean knew exactly what he was doing. Don't think he's not calculated. Just like he knew what he was doing last year when he took all his shots at Nathaniel Hackett, whether he was sending a message to his team saying, hey, guys, this was not your fault. There's a new sheriff in town. I'm going to fix this. You're still good football players. Or whether he was actually just being classless regardless. He knew exactly what he was doing. It was a calculated shot. It was planned. He knew what he was doing. And Sean, listen, Russ knew where to hit him. Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
Sean Payton is still, maybe understandably, but don't think that he will ever forget that year he took off. Okay. This version of Sean Payton we see right now that we all get along with. I get along with him. Gray, Charles, you do. Frank, I'm sure you do as well there in Denver. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a very media friendly, savvy, happy Sean Payton. Right. But that year ate at him. It ate at him good.
Yeah.
And if you ran into Sean Payton in that year off or the years immediately preceding that year off, it was a different dude. It's a different dude. Russ knew where to hit back. Okay. Russ just didn't throw a quick insult back at him. He hit back, and he hit back below the belt.
The thing is, too, I don't know if we can throw it back to the sound one more time. If you watch it, he pauses. And I'm like, oh my God, he's in his head right now. He's like, I'm gonna say it. Like he's like figuring out how he's gonna roll this out there. There really is. I'm telling you, I swear, if you watch it, there's a pause, and it's me, it's Sean working out in its mind. I'm gonna take this shot.
Let's play
I'm
it
gonna
again.
go ahead and unleash this.
Madison, can we bring that back? Bring that beat back one more time, if we could, please.
I have a ton of respect for that organization. I spent 4 of my early years there, coordinating Super Bowl, first game in this stadium before 9/11. Close with the mayor, Tisch family, and they found a little spark with that quarterback.
Right there.
I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game.
It's after
I'm talking to ownership behind your back. I just want you to know. That they're so much happier with their new young girlfriend.
By the way, I hope this starts the Russell Wilson revenge tour, where he's just going to be like,
heel turn.
Let it
heel turn.
Richard Sherman, I got something to say about you. And Marshawn Lynch, I got something to say about you. And just Mike Tomlin, here's yours.
Unleash evil Russ. That's what let's see it. Let's just see, let it fly. That's how I want it to end for him. I want to see evil Russ have his march out of the league.
I know you guys, you guys never watched Westworld, right? The brilliant show on HBO that got progressively crazier and harder to follow as it went. Nobody, right?
Did not.
Okay. So it's these they're these robots, basically, but they're humanoids. And as the show progresses, they turn evil. And then you realize, some of the people they actually thought were people are actually these androids. I can't explain it, but you see them totally do the turn, and you're like, oh my God, Russ can be programmed the other way. Never forget meeting him for the first time. It was the Rookie Symposium in 2012 in outside Cleveland near Geauga Lake, and I'm there covering it for NFL Network. And I'm in the elevator going downstairs from my room, and I'm this guy on my phone. I'm not even looking up, right? We go down a floor, the door opens, other people get in the elevator, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Russell Wilson, happy to meet you." And I'm like, oh. "Hey, Andrew, yeah, I know who you are." I'm like, good to meet you, man. Hey, that's him. He's great. That's I wish I could have that energy and that aura of insanely positive energy 24 hours a day. I'm in awe of it. I'm not mad. I'm impressed. He is always that guy. But there is another side, evidently.
Charles is feeling it.
Russ is the wife in Gone Girl. There's something behind those eyes that you don't know about. That is just psychopathic. You just don't know it, but it's there.
Go back and read the Rolling Stone article right after his rookie year. It starts with an anecdote of him at USC doing an appearance for Gatorade, where he's talking to a bunch of kids at the SC complex. And the writer just basically spends, I can't remember who wrote it, the first 3-4 paragraphs saying exactly what I just said. I was hoping for him to break character. He's out there pitching Gatorade to these kids and doing a clinic. We all love Gatorade, by the way. And the way he was pitching it and the way he was so positive with the kids, he figured that when he then sat down with himself, the writer, that he would take a break and get out of character. But he never did. It was is this guy real? Yes, he is.
We've all covered guys who turn it on for the camera, and then the camera goes off, and you're like, "Oh yeah, you're a jerk. Okay, that's cool. Whatever." Russ ain't that. Russ is that. This is him.
There's a difference between
whatever you think about him. He is genuine.
Yeah. There's a difference between you're a jerk and get off autopilot. You know what I'm saying? I never thought he was a jerk. This is just off autopilot, and it's fantastic. All right. 20 minutes on Russell Wilson. That was fun. Coming up next on Inside Coverage, what was also fun, speaking of quarterback situations in New York, what Woody Johnson said today about Justin Fields. If you had to wonder who is going to start this week for the Jets in Cincinnati, I think we've got the answer. That's next on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. If you joined us on Monday, and by the way, we hope that you did. If you didn't, it's okay. We're here every Monday through Thursday. Make a note of it. If you joined us on Monday, we told you that Aaron Glenn had mentioned on the podium after benching Justin Fields at halftime of their loss, they're the only winless team remaining in the league on Sunday, and going to Tyrod, that he was going to talk to other coaches around the league, or maybe past coaches, former coaches, maybe some mentors, to ask them, like, well, how have you dealt with quarterback situations like this? And I made the point that that's more of like an off-season conversation. Hey, here's how I navigated my first year, than a, hey, this is what I'm doing on a Monday conversation. But either way, if you had any doubt who the Jets starting quarterback would be this week in Cincinnati, take a listen to his boss, Aaron Glenn's boss, the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson.
To turn it around.
Well, it looks like he's turning around parts of it. You know, it's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that he got. You know, he has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results, if you will, across the league. You have to play consistently, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do for the remainder of the season.
So what gives you hope then? To give hope?
I just think defense, special teams are doing better. Defense is pretty good. If we can just complete a pass, it would look good. You got to complete some passes. You got to convince them that you can do something.
Okay, first of all, thanks to Jory. Jory is at the owners' meetings there in New York. Great camera work, Jory, by the way. Love you. If you couldn't hear that last line at the end, he said, if we could just complete a pass. The question was, do you have faith in Aaron Glenn? You said yes, and then basically threw the quarterback under the bus. If we could just complete a pass. I mean, last week, Mike Tomlin going after Andrew Berry is one thing. This is at least within your own building. But Charles, like midweek, when your coach is saying, I don't know who's going to start this week. I think your owner just told you who's going to start this week.
Yeah, I don't know. That I'm listening to it and I'm like, how on earth could you put Fields out there now? I mean, it has to be Tyrod Taylor. Like, there's just, I don't know how you can have an owner who basically pins 0-7 on the quarterback. Like, you can say whatever you want and dance around it, but he pinned it right squarely to Justin Fields. And I mean, I'll say this about those comments. People who have worked in that organization today there is a chorus of, yep, that's what it's like. That's what he is like. And that is what, the type of thing that you have to deal with. And somebody actually cracked about when he said, his rating. And someone texted me and said, is he talking about Madden rating? Like, is it his Madden rating or his quarterback rating?
Charles, that was actually me. I did that too. I did that in our group chat. That was me. Yeah, nice. save my name and number.
And I think that was in Will. You did it in WhatsApp. I got a text message. Everybody, the Madden joke. Come on,
Madden.
You got everybody.
It's priceless.
But what is Woody? This is the funny thing to me too is, Woody's reputation as an owner. I feel like it. Every time you think it can't get lower, right? It comes out in the NFLPA survey. He gets absolutely tanked by his players, and again, all the people that he's fired who have gone through that organization. There's just always this immense sense of relief to get away from the Jets, but specifically Woody as an owner. And then the moment like this happens and you go, it gets worse. Like it does. It actually can get worse. And I know he's trying to support Aaron Glenn, but I don't think that's how you do it. You don't shell a quarterback, especially on a week like this when there's a decision to be made. And frankly, I don't think he's the one who should be sounding off about a roster decision, right? I mean, isn't that Aaron Glenn's department? It's just everything about this to me was what you don't want your owner to engage in, and yet this is the Jets.
Yes, like you said, he tried to pin 0-7 on Justin Fields. You know who I'm pinning 0-7 on? Ambassador Johnson, the worst owner in sports. He is absolutely positively incompetent at his job to the point where I would ask, is there anybody in the NFL currently employed? I'm talking about backup lineman for the Titans, Justin Fields, the janitorial crew with the Ravens, ticket director with the Broncos, whoever you want to say, who is getting a paycheck from the NFL, who is worse at his job than Woody Johnson. I say no. I think Woody Johnson is the worst employee in the NFL. He's awful. He is killing that franchise. Jets fans should be picketing outside that stadium every day for him to sell the team. And this was just what his comments today were just so out of line. Like, if he was actually competent at his job, maybe there's something there and he can speak on it. He's a worse owner than Justin Fields is a quarterback. And I've seen Justin Fields play quarterback this year. Trust me, he shouldn't start this week. But Woody Johnson's worse at his job than Justin Fields is at his. Woody just should not be speaking on anything football related because he knows nothing about it. The results of the Jets have bore that out. What are we doing here? Like every day Woody Johnson owns the New York Jets is a day the Jets get further and further away from being a competitive team. They should be relegated. They're awful. It's all because of their owner. And I thought this was just hideous from him to speak like that on one of his players who they voluntarily went out and signed as their quarterback. He had to sign off on that. You don't just sign a quarterback without informing your owner. Like that was a $40 million investment and he signed off on it. So, well, what are you talking about, Woody?
It's an asset too, right? Like, I mean, even you would think from a business perspective, you're sitting there and you can trade players, right? He's under contract for another year. There might be another team out there that still has a shining for Justin Fields saying, we could bring him in, he could be our quarterback, because the Jets still owe him like more than $20 million. And yet you have an owner who goes out and does this. If I'm the general manager, if I'm the front office, I'm sitting there going,
clown show.
Okay, well,
clown show.
Really hard to move that guy now. Really, if we were going to start Tyrod Taylor and maybe figure out a way, like let's see if Fields has any value out there on the market. Maybe the Steelers are still interested in having him back in the fold in Pittsburgh. I doubt it, but the Steelers did want to re-sign him when he signed with the Jets. It's just everything about this is just so
worst owner in sports.
It's not even Bush League. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
There is a way, and we've seen Mark Davis open up about his dissatisfaction with the current state of his team. He did it a little bit today, actually, at owners' meetings, and do so with a different tone. Woody could have said something like, hey, I really support Aaron Glenn. It's been a rough start. Quarterback play, the offense has been inconsistent. Just that would have been okay, right? But if we could just complete a pass.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
come on.
That's Vinny and Queens on line 3 calling the fan.
Yes.
And that sounds a little bit different. Now, one part we didn't play there, he was very supportive of Aaron Glenn. Somebody asked him, how do you show your support for Glenn? Like, are you speaking to him? And he said, I give him a hug every day, basically, and say it's going to get better. So, look, there was at least a warm, supportive moment there for his head coach that all of us like and is clearly learning on the job and think, could handle some things a little bit differently. But he's been open with that and he's been candid and admitted that there are things that he could learn and that he is in the process of learning. Yeah, but throwing your quarterback under the bus. It's why I love covering. It's why I think we all love covering the owners' meetings, is that every now and then you get somebody in the lobby where they just say something. And then if you see everyone's faces there, whether it's Jonathan Jones or Diana or whomever, again, Jory with the photo work there, you could just see their faces go like, oh, okay. And then you see Breer, bless Bert. You see Breer, he's listening. And then after Woody says what he says, Breer's up there with his phone. He's like, I got to get this now. Hold on. He's on a roll.
Could you go back and repeat what you just said, Ambassador Johnson?
Yeah. Run it back.
Let me... All right. Let's move on, Charles, because actually this is perfect because you had Justin Fields in your article to an article you have up right now on Yahoo about quarterbacks, not coaches, but quarterbacks on the hot seat. We know that it looks like Justin Fields is going to be benched. In Miami, let's start there because you talk about Tua. Mike McDaniel is not benching Tua this week. He is sticking with him despite pulling him out of the game. It was over in the fourth quarter in the rain and bringing in the rookie Quinn Ewers this past Sunday. But McDaniel, who is known for sarcasm, but not always at Tua. I thought it was interesting when he said yesterday, when asked, why are you sticking with Tua and what do you want to see? He said, well, I don't want him to throw 10 picks. Tua is tied with Geno Smith for 10 interceptions.
Very specific number.
Leading, very specific, leading the NFL. How hot is Tua's seat?
Look, I think this is the first time we've heard Mike McDaniel say something negative to that degree. And again, the fact that he said 10 exactly is you're pointing at Tua. I mean, it's not you could say interceptions, right? But you're pointing at the proliferation of interceptions this season. And it's been, Tua's been asked about, the turnovers in bunches, and he's kind of, taken a little offense to that and gotten into some back and forth with reporters about it. But, his seat is hot, but I think it's more hot when you think about the bigger picture. Like, I think if this is what Tua is, and this is how Tua finishes this out, the Dolphins, the way it was presented to me by, people who have been in the organization, people who have worked with Stephen Ross, was the way they think it's going to play out is there's basically two avenues. You do the Russell Wilson ejection, right? You just go, you know what, we're going to do the total restart. We're going to, fire Mike McDaniel. We're going to fire the general manager, Chris Greer, and we're going to just start over. And someone's going to come in and have to deal with the salary cap cleanup, but we'll let them get their own quarterback. Or you can do the other avenue is if Mike McDaniel, this goes bad, Mike McDaniel gets fired, you go the Denver route with Sean Payton, which is to bring in a coach and go, see if you can, salvage it. Take 2026, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you have the blessing to make the change in the ensuing offseason and do exactly what Sean Payton did. He spent a year with Russ. As we see, it didn't go well. And then we're not going to work. And then he got Bo Nix. So that's really, if this is how Tua finishes this season out, I think that's what you're going to see. This is a referendum year, but there could still be another year tacked onto it. And that'll depend on what they do with Mike McDaniel.
When I heard this today from McDaniel, and also there was a clip Sunday after Tua threw his last interception of Mike McDaniel, and it's, you don't want to take it out of context, but it sure looked like Mike McDaniel is motioning, get the heck off the field. Like, he just is motioning like, get out. And then he benched Tua right after that. So I just looked at that, heard what Mike McDaniel said today, and thought back to, remember when Mike McDaniel was hired, the day he was hired, the video, viral clip of him on the phone with Tua saying, hey, I'm here to support you. We're going to get the best out of you. That positivity from Mike McDaniel that day has completely 180'd now. And he is just, you can tell the frustration levels just, it couldn't be higher. And I don't really blame him. That Dolphins team is a mess. And when I think of I don't know what the Dolphins do, because they're in a spot where I look at that entire organization. Chris Greer hasn't really done anything to save his job. He's been there 10 seasons now, and I don't know why he's still there. Mike McDaniel's inevitably going to get fired, right? We all could see that coming. They're going to have to do something with Tua, who has simply not been the same quarterback since his concussion against Buffalo early last season. I know that's kind of uncomfortable to talk about injuries that way, but look at Tua's career before that, and look at his career after that. He's just turned into a different player. He's a guy who doesn't stand in the pocket and want to get the ball down. Yeah. Yes, especially. Like, he's a guy who, look at his ADOT. Just look at that one stat before that concussion, after that concussion. And it is a completely different player. I feel bad for him in many ways. I think he was on a good trajectory before that. The concussion's just gotten away. Now he's just really lost. You look at that Miami Dolphins organization from top to bottom. I'm talking front office, coaching staff, and the roster. Are there 10 guys who really should survive all this? Like, you start talking about, like, I guess Jalen Waddle and Chop Robinson's pretty good, but there are very few names where you're like, yeah, we could keep those guys as foundations of this team. And that's scary. It's almost going to be like a nuclear hit the button, just blow it all up and start completely from the ground up. And it seems almost like that's what they have to do at this point. The Dolphins are an absolute
I would
mess.
go Jordan Brooks, Devon Achane. I mean, there are.
There's a handful of guys.
I just saw them in person this week. There are certainly some parts there, and I think it needs to be noted as well that the Mike McDaniel on the phone with Tua, the Mike McDaniel that we saw drop in 70 points on Sean Payton in September a couple of years ago, and this thing was all fresh and new and different, was the exact 180 of what Brian Flores was. And even bringing back the Russell Wilson conversation, there is power to positivity here. And McDaniel was the exact opposite of what Flores was. That was toxic. It didn't work. And McDaniel and Tua made magic together. The magic right now is just not there. And McDaniel is now turning, and I don't know whether or not he can make that turn remains to be seen, into more of a heavy-handed, sarcastic guy, get out of here guy. We'll see if that actually bears any fruit. I want to hit on Trevor Lawrence as well, because C-Rob, he's also in your article. It's amazing how it's such a binary win-loss, up and down, a bunch of 1-week seasons here. Because a couple of weeks ago, the Jaguars beat the Chiefs in primetime in Jacksonville. This was their big coming out party. Trevor Lawrence made a play at the end of the game, overcoming what seemed to be a pattern of situational unawareness throughout that game. Situational unawareness with some drop passes that we've continued to see these last 2 weeks, especially in London. The Jaguars, I do think, are moving in the right direction, but there are still people that say, and I guess I'm one of them, the jury's still out on Trevor Lawrence. He got his second contract, but where are we?
Yeah, I mean, the second contract, guys, that's sort of the line of demarcation here. Like, if you talk about like Spencer Rattler and the decision to be made there, Spencer Rattler hasn't been paid. If we want, you talk about like JJ McCarthy, how hot is that seat and what does he have to do? And again, JJ hasn't been paid. And then you have these other guys who have been paid. You have as you said, a Trevor Lawrence, you have Tua, Kyler Murray, another guy that's been paid. And the money dictates opportunity, right? You can't, there's always a salary cap hit that you have to weigh, and that's going to continue to ultimately push you forward. Lawrence, I don't think there's any danger with Trevor Lawrence through the remainder of the season. There's no question about that. But I do think that there's an element in play with Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen's offense and what ultimately the fit is going to look like by the end of the season. They've been spending a ton of time working on mechanics with him. I think, the biggest gripe when you would talk to people in the organization is that historically Lawrence is this really tall guy, and mechanically he just gets loose. He just gets, fundamentally unsound with some of the things that he's doing. So they spent all this time drilling on this, but he is, as you said, I mean, he's this guy that you got the contract that kind of corners you into it. And you either have the opportunity to build around him and hope for the best, or, you stare at what could come in the offseason. But I don't think Lawrence is definitely one of the ones that, with the money, that I think they will continue to drive assets into the team around him until they feel like they can make him right or at least workable.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fatal flaw, isn't it? I mean, you said the jury's still out on Trevor Lawrence. I think the jury's in. The verdict is he's just not that great. Like, he's just so inconsistent, and it's from throw to throw. I mean, even Kurt Warner, who really doesn't rip anybody, one of the nicest guys, obviously, out there in broadcasting, even he was like, man, Trevor Lawrence has to make these throws. He looked awful in London against the Rams, but that's what you get out of Trevor Lawrence. He'll have some good games. Chiefs game, he was awesome for most of it, but then he just has these games where he's completed less than 50% of his passes, and most of them are just, these are easy passes he's got to make. And we're down the road enough with Trevor Lawrence to say, like, this is it. Like, it's just, this is who he is. I just don't think it's getting better. What's it going to get better in his 7th season? Like, we've seen him play enough football that I think this is Trevor Lawrence. And you have to go back to last year too and say, man, you really look at it. Mac Jones came in and kind of gave that offense some life that Trevor Lawrence doesn't necessarily. Look at Brian Thomas. Like, Brian Thomas became a star last year. We're all excited about him this year, and he's a ghost right now because Trevor Lawrence can't get him the ball because he's not accurate enough.
Wait, Brian Thomas has had trouble holding onto the football. Like,
that's true.
I'm not gonna totally absolve Lawrence in this. Brian Thomas at times looks like he has 2 left hands this year.
Yeah, it's all going back.
And
passing game.
Yeah, the thing is too, though, when you get into the advanced analytics, and you start, because I asked this watching, Brian Thomas Jr. this weekend or last weekend, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, someone's got to explain this regression to me because this is not the same player. And everybody comes out of the woodwork saying, go back and watch Mac Jones throw Brian Thomas Jr. the football. Watch him in a Doug Peterson offense and what that looks like, which is not at all the same as the Liam Cohen offense. And then they drive into the analytics where they say, look, Mac Jones simply throws. If you look at it and how it's measured, Mac Jones has thrown a more catchable ball, particularly downfield. Trevor Lawrence does not have a great percentage on throw accuracy in terms of putting it where a wide receiver, can catch it cleanly. That's what the analytics say. I haven't done all the film work. I'm judging this based on, the advanced analytics that are out there.
Interesting.
But something has not clicked thus far. And I will say this, when I went through their camp and I got in there, it was clear Lawrence was still processing the Liam Cohen offense. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to take some time. I in my mind, I don't know why I didn't expect a learning curve with that change. But once I was in there, watching him in that camp, and you start to talk to people in the organization, there was a feel like, hey, this is going to take some time. It may not just be plug and play. It might take the balance of the 2025 season to really get him comfortable running that Liam Cohen scheme.
Check out C-Rob's article right now on Yahoo's NFL page about quarterbacks on the hot seat. Coming up next, we'll tap the base on Monday Night Football. Some quick thoughts on those two games. And are the Cowboys going to make a blockbuster trade? I mean, blockbuster. This one's fun. It's next on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Three grumpy old men complaining about a Monday night doubleheader. Let's give you a couple of quick thoughts on these games. First off, the Lions did beat the Buccaneers. Baker called out referee John Hussey by name. We had one of those odd, let me go back after a second look on a replay from New York that we're still trying to unpack the exact timeline there. But the headlines for me in this one, guys, Baker's pressured 30 times. That's the most by any team in any game this year. You're not going to win. They lose Mike Evans. Tough to see the broken collarbone of the fact that his streak is now going to come to an end. 11 1,000-yard seasons, tied for the longest streak of all time with the Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. Also have to ask, no more guaranteed money, just a Boyd year on his contract. Mike Evans is 32. What's his future there in Tampa? Everybody loves him. If they could do something, I'm sure he'll be back, but it's always good to wonder. I also think here as well that we need to tip the cap to Kelvin Shepherd, who is the former linebacker and the defensive coordinator, now taking over for Aaron Glenn there in Detroit. Their entire starting secondary was out. And you saw guys like Amik Robertson, who's a slot corner, and in essence, if they're in nickel, he is a starter. But you saw him out there, and then you saw a bunch of, it's not a veritable who's who, it's a veritable who's he in the secondary for Detroit. I'm just going to go through these names here that were making plays all day for the Lions in the secondary. You had Nick Whiteside from Saginaw Valley State, who most recently played with the UFL St. Louis Battlehawks. You had Thomas Harper, who was claimed off waivers recently, like a couple of weeks ago, from the Raiders. You had a guy named Eric Hallett, who on the first play of the game was bowled over by Rachaad White. He might get fined for that. He lowered his helmet. They have cut him. The Lions have cut him 3 times. And then you had journeyman Arthur Mollett, who is on his 6th team. If you include getting cut in camp with the Texans one year, it is his 7th team. And they locked down the Buccaneers and won that game. So tip of the cap, C-Rob, there to one Kelvin Shepherd.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you go back to when the season started, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, so they promote Shepherd from within. They promote, John Morton from within the offensive coordinator. I'm like, are we sure here? Like, do you always have to promote from within? You couldn't have gone out. This is what I thought to myself. You couldn't have gone out and sold a prime OC candidate on that offensive set of players. You couldn't have gone out and hired somebody on the defensive side from outside who looked at the pieces that were injured last year and what you've added and, the youth of the secondary and really netted. I would frame it like go out and you get a Vic Fangio or you go out and you get a Robert Saleh, something like that. And now I'm sitting here going, no, maybe I should just think about what Dan Campbell has accomplished there, the culture that he's built, the familiarity that players have, with that coaching staff, and the unity that they all really truly believe on message what Dan Campbell is selling. And Dan also knows what assistants he has who are capable of continuing to instill that in the DNA of the players. I last night I was like, I just need to shut up. Like, I just need to trust that Dan Campbell knows what he's doing and that these other coaches are coming up through that system and that culture and they're just as capable of delivering results. I'll be curious if we see by the end of this season, if, with all due respect to Aaron Glenn, I think of the two coordinators, Ben Johnson was the one that was really considered sort of the pick of the litter out of those guys. It was like Ben Johnson could have had a multitude of jobs over a span of a couple of years. I wonder if between these two guys, Morton and Shepard, if Shepard ends up being kind of the new Ben Johnson on their staff, if he ends up being the young, like super coveted hot guy over the next couple of seasons, because I do think that defense, with the youth that it has, but also a really high level of skill, has the ability to be the breakthrough part that propels Detroit back into the Super Bowl, picture. And if teams aren't going, maybe we need to go call Shepard and get an interview lined up, and he doesn't become that coveted.
Frank, you see the topic bar. It says, "Is Detroit a top 3 team?" So let's play the we got to answer the topic bar game here. You're the power rankings guy.
Absolutely, I have them number 2,
Okay.
and if you want to make an argument they're number 1, I'm fine with that. I get it, because offensively they still have those explosive plays, and that's a credit to John Morton, because we overrated for the first time ever the loss of coordinators. Usually underrated. This time we overrated it. Over the summer, I didn't have a conversation with anybody about the Lions without the names Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn being brought up.
Same.
By the end of the summer, I'm like, come on, like these guys are just not schmoes off the street. John Morton, Kelvin Shepard, they've actually been around. Give these guys a shot. But I do think what you hit on, Charles, is absolutely accurate. It's Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's a great coach. When you think about, like Andrew was talking about, all those guys who stepped into the lineup and played well on Monday night. Last year, what was the thing? They had so many injuries, but yet the defense kept playing well. Like, who are these guys who are just picking? They had like 9 starters out at one point, still played really well, finished, I think, 6th in DVOA in defense up for the year. Even with all those guys out, was a common thread. It's Dan Campbell. It's the culture he has set. Very impressed with him, very impressed with Shepard, very impressed with Morton. This is a very, very good football team that can easily make a Super Bowl. Hats off to them, and shame on us for just completely saying, oh, they're just going to fall off because they lost Ben Johnson. Well, no, this is a really, really sound franchise. Brad Holmes, give him credit for finding those guys that they could throw into the lineup on a Monday night against Tampa Bay and play well. Yeah, the Lions are absolutely a top 3 team.
Andrew, would you not agree? We've all done this long enough that the top 3 teams perennially, the teams that are great, when you truly break through and have that greatness, it's the teams that can lose coordinators and replace them with new great coordinators.
Sure.
It's teams that can create a pipeline.
It's a big time skill.
That
Mike Vrabel
is
the Rams.
absolutely a skill. Thank you, Mike Vrabel. That is what I thought when Mike Vrabel went to the Patriots. I kept telling people one of Mike Vrabel's skills is he promoted Matt LaFleur to offensive coordinator. He promoted Arthur Smith to offensive coordinator. He knows how to hire the right coaches inside the culture to perpetuate what the mission is and get the most out of his players. If that's where these Lions are, and Dan Campbell, I mean, yeah, it's a top 3 organization this year, but that will make them a top 3 organization every single year moving forward.
Things have changed.
Yeah,
in Detroit, man. I mean, I used to be a laughing stock, and now it's a model franchise.
And let's give Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew plenty of credit as well, who both came from the Rams. In that front office. Quick thought, not to diminish the late game, but quick thought on the late game here. I don't know that anyone knows the Seahawks are good. Like most of America, we're talking about the Lions and Baker Mayfield. I know present company excluded. The Seahawks are really, really, really good. And we saw that last night if you stayed up. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is leading the league in receiving. And he is really, 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 really good. The Seahawks, and this shows you right now how backwards the Texans are. The Seahawks became the first team to win a game this season with a -3 turnover margin in a game. They turned it over 5 times and still won against the number 1 scoring D in the NFL coming in. And the Texans, and this just shows you how their offense is broken. They're the first team in NFL history to lead the NFL in points per game allowed and have a losing record through 7 games. Wow. That's absurd. Andrew, so they've beaten Tennessee and they've beaten... Go ahead.
Well, don't you think... I keep having this moment that I had with Andrew and Ben Fox, and it was weeks ago. Do you remember when Ben Fox said, hey, somebody's running around Vegas putting all this money on the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl? And at that time, I'm like... I mean, he was talking about them dropping like millions. running around to different books.
Hope so.
It might have been better. And last night, I'm even though I hated watching that game, I'm like, I don't know who that guy is, but I gotta feel like he's feeling pretty good right now because this team absolutely looks like it's got a balance to it, and especially I think defensively, if they can bring what they brought last night, they're gonna raise hell. I think when they get into the playoffs.
And let's say I need to point out.
Go ahead.
I need to point out that he didn't play his best game yesterday, but there was a team last year that went 14-3, got rid of their quarterback. That quarterback went on to a new team, and now I think they're one of the best teams in football. We saw Justin Jefferson's numbers kind of tank this year. Well, JSN has kind of taken off and become a top 3 receiver. Maybe we need to throw Sam Darnold some flowers here and say, we got all shook off of those last 2 games last year. Everyone's like, oh, Sam Darnold, pumpkin, the clock at midnight, he's done. Sam Darnold is the common thread between that 14-3 Vikings team last year, a Seahawks team that I think I have 8th in the NFL. I might be too low on. They're really, really good. They do everything well. They do everything well.
Yeah, they do. Texans only play defense well right now. They have beaten Tennessee and they've beaten a Lamar Jackson-less Ravens team. Those are their 2 wins. They still have talent. They can still fix things, but their run game is broken. Their O-line still has issues. They do have a 3-game homestand coming up, so it's there for the taking for the Texans. However, that 3-game homestand is against the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Jaguars, so it is in no way a cakewalk. All right, let's get to the trade news here in our final 5-6 minutes. Gentlemen, Trey Wingo, former ESPN NFL anchor, Trey Wingo took to the tweeter this morning. And Charles, I know you've talked about this throughout. The Cowboys are working on a deal with the Raiders on Maxx Crosby, who left their loss right before the bye early with neck and back injuries. But Pete Carroll said yesterday that he'll be fine. He'll be okay. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me, and Trey Wingo said it's inquiries. I wrote a piece last week. Look, I talked to multiple people around the league who have dealt with the Cowboys in the past, who I know made calls on Micah Parsons. And as I was kind of putting together a trade deadline piece, and Jerry had come out and said, that hey, if we see some, paraphrasing here, if we see something, to help us, we've got ammunition and flexibility to do that. So I basically just grabbed the ear of people who I knew have spent time talking to Stephen Jones on the phone and, are definitely going to be circling that trade deadline and interacting with the Cowboys. I said, what's going on? And what I was told was straight up, hey, they're looking for a plus level defensive player. And it was clear these are the calls that they have made at this point. This is who they're targeting. And what I was told was, hey, they'll look at Trey Hendrickson. If Trey Hendrickson becomes available, they will look at Trey Hendrickson. If Jeffrey Simmons becomes available, now both franchises are saying no right now. The Bengals behind the scenes are trying to tell people they don't want to deal Trey Hendrickson. This is not a lost season. And the Titans are saying behind the scenes, we see Jeffrey Simmons being a part of where we're going. And we've still got him under contract for a couple of years here. But that did not stall any of this feeling that the Cowboys are definitely looking to add a big defensive piece. And Maxx Crosby to me makes some sense. I thought what was really interesting, this to me was fascinating. I had a source from the NFC said to me, he said, Pickens weighs into this for the Cowboys because they now, with the way Pickens has played, they have to consider taking 2 avenues now with George Pickens. One avenue is, okay, George Pickens has played himself into a T. Higgins level deal, which he's going to make $28 million a year. We're going to sign him. We're not going to do anything at the trade deadline, though, because we want to keep our first round picks. We want to keep the ability to draft young players on rookie contracts so that we can give George Pickens this monster deal and keep he and CeeDee Lamb together. Or the other avenue is George Pickens has played his way out of Dallas. We're not going to be able to spend that kind of money on 2 wide receivers and Dak and be able to have a balanced salary cap. So what we need to do is be aggressive at the trade deadline so we can maximize the number of games we have left this season with George Pickens. Go for it all now because we think we're going to end up losing George Pickens in the offseason, and that will leave a salary slot open for us for whoever we trade for. So let's say it is a Maxx Crosby. We can keep him. No problem. We just slide him into the slot we were already planning for with George Pickens, and we let George Pickens ultimately leave in free agency. It's really fascinating, that angle. I had not thought about that. And the Cowboys have some options here. And Spotrac, if you look at it, I'm going to read the numbers here. The new team that acquires Maxx Crosby, this is extremely equitable because the Raiders absorbed the accelerated cap. $20.3 million for the rest of this season, $30 million for 2026, $29 million for 2027, $27 million for 2028. Whoever acquires him can keep this guy as long. I mean, I'm sure he's going to want an adjustment at some point, but at the very least, in the near future, he is a very viable piece and very valuable, I think, to whoever acquires him.
Yeah, I was just looking at those numbers too, Frank. Just be real quick. It's basically a clean 2 years and 60. Like starting next year, it's a clean 2 years
in terms
and
of what's
60.
guaranteed. Yeah.
Yes, and that's it.
In terms of the guarantees.
Go ahead, Frank.
I just look at this as like you're out there talking about Maxx Crosby. Why not just hold on to Micah Parsons? Can you explain to me what you gain? Because you're going to have to give up at least what. Okay, please do, because I'm confused why we just sit there and go, Jerry's a genius. He got Maxx Crosby. Well, here's the thing.
If they had signed Micah, right, and it was interesting because this was sort of the game theory that I talked out with a couple personnel guys. If they had signed Micah to the deal, ultimately that he landed with the Green Bay Packers, and Pickens plays the way he plays, Pickens is off the table. You can't. There's no way they could have figured out how you're going to pay, two massive wide receiver deals, the quarterback deal, the offensive line deals you have in place, and then on top of it, Micah Parsons. Pickens would have been let go. Let's say the Cowboys look at the situation and they go, hey, you know what? Okay, so let's do the math here. If we pay Pickens $28 million a year and we get Maxx Crosby in here on a deal that's roughly around $30 million a year, that's $58 million. If we were going to pay Micah 44, 45, that means we need the salary cap to take another jump. We play with some of the contracts and we can make this work. What if the Cowboys were to walk away with Maxx Crosby and still sign George Pickens in the offseason? Would you rather have those two players on your roster or Micah Parsons?
Yeah, but you're talking about Micah Parsons at what, $14 million? You can get a decent player for $14 million. So it's not just a straight 2-for-1. You'd get somebody with that extra $14 million.
Micah, okay, Frank, a $14 million wide receiver now. Do you know what that looks like? A $14 million wide receiver?
Washington or something. Yeah, I get it.
It ain't
there
George
is cap
Pickens.
savings.
You're talking about having an elite edge rusher, right? I still think Crosby, I know he's hurt right now, whatever. Look, Crosby's a top 5, 6 edge rusher in the league still.
Absolutely.
And you're going to put Pickens and what you're getting out of Pickens right now and Lamb together. You're basically going to have your Jamar Chase and T. Higgins plus a top, 5, 6 edge rusher. Nah, I think if somehow Jerry swings this, let's say he gets Crosby and they do figure out a way to sign Pickens for a T. Higgins level deal, I would walk away and go, nope, he did the right thing. And I never thought in a million years, and I've written the opposite. I've said there's no way Jerry can justify this. Now I think he might be able to justify this if he could pull this off.
But a couple things here that would have to happen is, for one, Max would have to just play out this contract, right? And not ask for an adjustment, which he will. And also, we've talked about this preseason. Can you trust George Pickens after he gets paid? It's great to say, well, he's played himself into a T. Higgins contract. That's great. He's been great in a contract year. Remember, if he could just get one quiet year out of Pickens, he could get paid. How does George Pickens look like after he gets paid?
Just so you know, I did ask when the evaluator I was talking to, when he said, Pickens is going to get T. Higgins level deal. I was like, do you really think there's a team out there on free agents? And he was like, oh, absolutely. He's like, there's no doubt there's a team that will pay him that money.
One. Oh yeah, absolutely. If he gets through this year clean,
clean,
with good reviews, and then has a monstrous season, somebody will absolutely write him the check. And then the Cowboys, by the way, will get the point. Yeah, and he's been great. They'll get the compensatory 3.
No fights
So
on
the
Hail
trade made
Marys,
sense
yeah.
just for the compensatory 3, right? If they had been able to
Yeah.
swing that and get the payback for it. My only thing, I think we're overlooking what it would cost to get Maxx Crosby from the Raiders. They're not going to just give him away. They're going to want at least
no, yeah.
1, probably 2 1s, and that's what
The
you
same
got
deal for
from the
Micah.
Packers.
The same
that
package.
it's a swap. Sure, I get it. Yeah, Jerry, there's no way he wants to give up both of those ones. He would try to do the deal for like a 1 and a 3 and something like that, which is what I would try to do. But if you could pull it off, I mean, more power to you.
And you still have Kenny Clark. By the way,
still have
let's
Kenny
not
Clark.
forget, you still have Kenny Clark too.
The trade deadline, by the way, is Election Day. So you need to keep it in your head. So November 4th.
Awesome.
By the way, we're going to have a special show that day. Just saying. Election Day, when you go to the polls, we will go to the trade deadline. You report, or you vote and we report. Something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. For Charles Robinson and for Frank Schwab, my name is Andrew Siciliano. Did we go late? It was fun. Thanks for listening to and watching Inside Coverage. We'll see you tomorrow.